Hello, it's me, Rustage with a terrible haircut. I'm back again, and this time for a first episode, well, maybe not the first episode, but one of the first episodes of my new series of Rustage reviews, where me, stupid dummy Rustage man, reviews things that I have watched and enjoyed or maybe not enjoyed, like anime, video games, movies, etc. I just wanted to do this. People on Twitter were asking me to do something like this, and I thought it would be a cool idea to just share my opinions and stuff. Firstly, I'm not a professional reviewer. These are literally just my opinions on things, and they could be totally wrong because I have dubby braids and I'm just a dubby boy. I thought would be a really good one to start off with is Naruto, because I do a lot of Naruto raps and people always ask me, do you even like Naruto? And the answer is, yeah, kinda. How I'm going to do this is I'm just going to talk about my thoughts, and they'll be slightly spoilers, but not really. And then I'll give a review score at the end. I'm having a 1 to 10 point system, but the only difference is I also have like a plus minus. You know, like when you do like school and you've got like B plus, A plus, C plus, C minus, that sort of thing. I'm doing that, but with the number system, because it's like a solid 5 or like a strong 5 or a weak 5. That's kind of how I'm doing it, just because that makes sense to me. I don't want to revert to a 100-point scale, and I don't want to do like a 0.5 either, because sometimes it's like it's a 6, but it's barely a 6. You know what I mean? So I'd rather do a 6 minus, right? That makes sense. That makes sense? That makes sense. Okay. Let's get into, gosh dang, Naruto. Naruto is pretty decent, and I know a lot of people who watch it and prefer Shippuden to base Naruto, but I think there are some cooler like fights and characters, and the animation's better, but I think in general, in terms of the story, I much prefer base Naruto to Shippuden. When I was I have to say this out the way first. I read Naruto, so I didn't experience any filler content. It was all reading. Right, so I also am not swayed by anything like animation-wise or music-wise. It's all reading, start to finish. Most of my series I read. I read most of it on my phone in Korea, and I read like almost the whole thing whilst I was in Korea. And once I finished reading the whole thing, I made my Kakashi rap, and I read the whole thing so that I could make my Kakashi rap. So, you know, I'm dedicated. Yeah, so I read the whole thing. I'd obviously read bits and pieces as a kid anyway, so I roughly knew the story and I knew the characters in the world, and that kind of helped me, because the thing about worlds like Naruto and other things like that, where they create a whole universe for you, I feel like as a child, it's easier to get invested in that, where as an adult, when you're learning about this whole new world and this whole new universe and stuff, it could be a bit difficult. Like there's this barrier of entry there, and I found that with some newer shonen that I'm getting into. And at the beginning of Naruto, they kind of have a little bit of a clunky exposition where Kakashi is explaining different chakra types and stuff. And I felt like if I had read that now as someone who didn't know anything about Naruto when I read it, that would have put me off. But because I was a kid when I first read that, and I kind of just understand the world of Naruto, I kind of could skim through that because I knew how it all worked anyway, and it didn't really matter that much. And the thing about the world building in Naruto is it starts pretty strong and then tapers off near the end anyway. So most of this stuff about all the different villages and the stuff like that doesn't really matter. Here's my thing about Naruto. It's pretty good. It's better than I think most people like give it credit for, because a lot of people dog on Naruto because it's popular and like kind of like baby's first anime. A lot of kids are into it, etc. But it's got strong moments. I think Gaara, who is my favorite character, his entire character arc in Naruto is incredible. I think the whole Chunin exam stuff is very effective at showcasing all the different characters. I think Naruto is a good character, and I like Sasuke a lot too. And I do like Sakura. I don't think she's that bad. She could have been written better. But honestly, if you have a problem with Sakura, you should probably be annoyed at Kishimoto for writing her badly, and not be annoyed at Sakura, who didn't do anything wrong. She's just a fictional character. Right? It's Kishimoto does have a problem where he writes women badly, and he's like admitted this as well. So Sakura's not the only woman who's written badly. She's just a woman that's in a lot of the scenes, so you could see how badly women are written through her. People like to praise Hinata because they like her, but she's barely in the show. And her really only defining character traits is she's shy and she likes Naruto. And because a lot of people who are watching Naruto are fans, sorry for this, a lot of people who are watching Naruto are fans of Naruto and they see themselves in Naruto's shoes. So the fact that Hinata, this like cute girl, likes Naruto means that they like Hinata for that, really. Like, Hinata doesn't do much. She has that one moment with Pain, and she has a little bit of a moment with Neji in the first act, which is cool, by the way. In Shippuden, she does nothing. Right, let's go back to the Naruto versus Shippuden thing. The Konoha 12 are all a bunch of really interesting characters, right? I think they're the most interesting characters in the series, and they could have been even more interesting if they continued up until Shippuden. You have characters like Rock Lee, who's incredible. Everyone loves Rock Lee for his story. Shikamaru is really interesting. Neji and Hinata have an interesting dynamic, and they're both very interesting. Kiba doesn't do a lot. Shino, they don't do a lot, but they are interesting designs and characters. And they're all set up in the first half of Naruto, before the time skip, as really interesting characters. And you're really interested to see what happens to them after the time skip. Then the time skip happens, and everything is just the Uchiha show for the rest of the series, which is fine. It just feels like a waste, if that makes sense. Characters like Rock Lee, everyone praises as one of their favorite characters. He doesn't do anything after the time skip. He's barely around. And for that character to still be everyone's favorite, it shows how effective the first half of Naruto is. Sorry for these weird, funky sounds in the background, but I just feel like it's such wasted potential, and the story really just took a 180. I don't even think the storyline of Sasuke's run off and to do his own thing and Naruto has to find him is that bad. I actually really quite liked Sasuke's own little character arc and his relationship with Itachi. Itachi is one of my favorite characters. I think that's pretty good. That's an effective story arc. And I think the Akatsuki's fun too, and Pain is fun too. I just think that the Konoha 12 could have been incorporated more effectively and had their own character arcs and story arcs throughout that. They tried. You could tell that they tried. They tried. They had like Mike Guy's team face Kisame, but it was just like there wasn't much there. The only character of the Konoha 12 who got really any development after the time skip besides the main three was Shikamaru, and that was just from a character death, which I found annoying. I could go on a tirade about how he should not have died then, because Shikamaru is supposed to be this really intelligent 200 IQ person. He should be able to work out that the blood on the ground does something, even if he doesn't know exactly what he does. The moment he sees this fellow put blood on the ground, his first point of interest, if he's so smart, would be, hey, one of these water ninjutsu users, which they were, the two like tuning with him could use water ninjutsu, wash away the blood. I think they even do it later, maybe. It's just, it feels really out of character for Shikamaru to be so intelligent and then let something like that happen, in my opinion. Anyway, that's a rant, and I know a lot of people will dislike me for points like that, but whatever. I thought characters like Naruto and Sasuke had really strong development throughout the series. I have another gripe with Naruto, though, which was, in the first half of Naruto, they kind of set it up. I say first half, it's more like first third. They kind of set it up so that Naruto is like this underdog that's working hard to become Hokage, right? He can't use genjutsu, he can't do a bunch of other stuff. But he's got like that strong willpower, etc. And he's cursed and burdened with the Nine-Tails Demon Fox, right? So people hate him, outcast. And it's great because you could see his response to that and how that compares to a character like Gaara. I think that's great and effective. And Neji, he even has this ideological battle with Neji, where Neji says everything is predetermined, and Naruto goes, no, you have to work for what you need, which is great. I think it's a good message for the show. The unfortunate thing is the rest of the show runs contrary to this, where Naruto ends up becoming genetically related to the fourth Hokage. He is the reincarnation of, what's his name, Asura? I don't remember his name. He is the child of prophecy. And actually, the Nine-Tails Demon Fox is not really a hindrance. It's just an unlimited use of, I don't know why I still have those up. It's an unlimited use of, like, chakra for him. And, like, it's just kind of crazy that they kind of just ditched that whole message for this Chosen One thing, which is fine. I'm fine with Chosen One stories. They kind of have their place, but Naruto felt like it was setting up for one thing and then was a big letdown when it was another. There was a lot of themes of like working for your own identity in the first half. Rock Lee had a whole thing with that. Gaara had a whole thing like that. You had all of these themes that I thought was so, like, Sakura even had this whole thing, even though people don't like it, when she like cut off her hair so that she could like stand up and fight, it was an effective moment. There's a lot of effective moments like that for the characters in Naruto that kind of get tossed aside in the second half, I felt. The second stuff still has good moments. I think the highlights are Sasuke's journey, and I like Kakashi's flashback with Obito and the whole thing with that. But in general, it felt weaker and more bloated and stuff like that. And especially the final arc with the war arc, I could tell Kishimoto really wanted to do this big, grand battle thing, but it just kind of dragged. And by having this big, grand battle, you kind of lose a lot of the personal stakes that these characters have. And you could still have a big grand battle and personal stakes. Don't get me wrong, big grand battles are fine, but it wasn't really properly set up for. The Edo Tensei of all the previous people coming back from death are not villains that anyone cares about. Like, if you get a battle between a bunch of ninja and an Edo Tensei version of an old Akatsuki member, there's no reason for that battle to exist except for that's fodder for them to, because there's no motivation for that Edo Tensei Akatsuki member to fight, because they're just, they're an Edo Tensei Akatsuki member, they've come back from the dead. And the only reason why the main characters are fighting them is just to get them out of the way so they can get to Madara, which is just sets up for a bunch of really weak fights. I feel like if you have a fight in a show, there should be like motivation and purpose behind it. Gaara versus Naruto is a really good example. You have lots of good... Kakashi versus Obito is a really good example. You have lots of good examples in Naruto. Sasuke versus Danzo, I quite like. It's a good fight. They all have good stakes in them, right? But that just kind of made it bleh. And then obviously at the end, the thing that most people hate about Naruto is the whole Kaguya reveal. And the thing is, it just was not set up correctly. It could have been good. I like the idea that Zetsu this whole time was like an espionage agent working for a greater deity and formulating this whole thing. But we needed more, and we needed more to make that work, right? And the other thing was, we never got to see how the Team 7 or whatever could best Madara, right? They made Madara very powerful, and everyone was looking forward to the moment where they defeated Madara. And then, instead, Kaguya comes out, and they defeat Kaguya instead, which is not as interesting or impressive to watch, because we don't really know what Kaguya's abilities are, but we've been setting up for half the show Madara's stuff. So it's just not interesting to watch, or read, in my case. If they had, like, defeated Madara... that still would be kind of bad. I don't know. I feel like it didn't really work. I feel like they needed to have more setup. Like, Zetsu could have been... We could have followed a bit more. We could have learned more about the Momoshiki people. And it all just seemed to come in at the end in a way that felt unnatural for the story. And then they even had that bit where all of the Konoha 12 like attacked at the end, and it felt undeserved. It felt undeserved because most of them hadn't done anything by that point, and there were stronger ninjas in the village or whatever. It just felt like Naruto had barely spoken to like Kiba in like 3 years. I feel like I'm ranting a lot about Naruto, right? But it is a solid show. I like the magic system. I like the characters. I'm just passionate about things that they could have done better. The world building could have been better. They set up a lot of good, interesting things about the world, but you barely learn anything about anything else. The world doesn't really come into play with it. You learn about this one family of Uchihas, and then everything kind of revolves around them. But it's not bad. It's not bad. And the aspects of it I'm interested in. I just felt like there's a lot of wasted potential in areas. And it's not one of my favorite shows for sure. But it's not bad. It's interesting. And credit has to be given that it set up this really interesting world. It didn't expand on it a ton, but it set up... Like, you don't know much about the world outside of the actual ninja villages. Like, there are cities and societies. The ninja villages are hidden ninja villages. In, like, the Zabuza arc, you visit, I think, not a ninja village, right? There's, like, a city. And they're building a bridge, I think. But you don't, outside of that, there's nothing really. There's nothing. Like, we don't really learn about these actual towns that aren't ninja villages. And I feel like that's also a wasted potential. Like, what are they doing during all of this, during the Great Ninja Wars, during everything like that? And I could be getting my facts wrong because I wasn't given that much information about them. I just think, in general, it was all right. That's my review. My final review score for Naruto as a whole is a 7+. There you go, 7+. I don't know where I'm going to put the 7+. It's going to be here somewhere. It's a 7+. I liked it. I enjoyed it. It was strong. It's a strong 7. It's a 7+. But there's so much that wasted potential that doesn't mean it's higher than that, right? So yeah, 7+. I think that's a fair score to give Naruto. Yeah, 7+. 7+. There you go. Just so you know, like 10 is like, I think it's incredible. It's near perfect. 9 is amazing. 8 is great. 7 is good. 6 is decent. 5 is average, right? 4 is below average. 3 is like bad. 2 is abysmal, and 1 is the worst thing ever, right? You might think that a lot of my scores on this are going to be kind of low, but that's because I kind of like to have... I'm not going to give everything a 9 or a 10 unless I really like them, or 8 or whatever. Like, if I think something's good, I'll give it a 7 because that means it's good, right? And Naruto's good. It's a 7+. It's good. It's a good show. A lot of wasted potential. That's my review of Naruto. I don't know if anyone's going to watch these. These could be boring. It's just me rambling about something for 16 minutes. That did not feel like 16 minutes. That felt like that went by in my head, but I talked for 16 minutes about Naruto. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed my weird... I probably got a lot of things wrong. My weird Naruto review. If you want to see me review more stuff, let me know in the comments, and if I finished it, I will only review things that I finished. If I finished it, then I will give you my review on it, and I hope you will enjoy my review. Again, I apologize for my face and hair, and my voice and everything about myself. Thank you so much for watching, and here's a funky little crew dismissed. Crew dismissed.